Stunning new poll numbers this week show President Biden trailing Donald Trump in 5 of 6 key battleground states. Doesn't end there. In a recent poll conducted by CNN, 51% of voters nationwide said there was no chance at all that they would vote for Biden in 2024. 48% said the same thing about Trump. But that New York Times Siena poll also revealed that in a hypothetical race without Joe Biden, an unnamed generic Democrat leads Trump by 8 points, 48-40. So across these 6 battlegrounds, all of which Biden carried in 2020, he trails Trump by an average of 48-44. And yet, some unnamed Democrat would lead Trump in those states by double that margin. As it turns out, there is basically an unnamed Democrat actually running for president. His name is Congressman Dean Phillips. You don't know much about him because he's the unnamed guy I'm talking about. So I ask, with that poll in mind, why aren't Democrats basically lining up behind a no-name like Dean Phillips? Joining me now, Charlie Dent, former Republican congressman from Pennsylvania. Nomiki Konst, former Bernie Sanders surrogate and director of Matriarch, a national organization focused on supporting progressive working-class women running for office. And Larry Sharpe, host of the Sharpe Way Show and was a libertarian candidate for governor of New York in the last 2 elections. Charlie Dent, what do you make of what these polls tell us and what Democrats are doing in response, which is nothing?
Well, what I'm hearing is that about 2/3 of Americans want someone other than Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And the ground is fertile for an independent movement. Never been this fertile. They think one of these 2 candidates is too old and the other is too crazy. That's where we are. And I think, I know Dean Phillips well, by the way.
You do. You're one of the few people who know him well.
I
mean, honestly, there's no one I talk to who says they know anything about Dean Phillips. So what do you know about the guy?
He's a very moderate Democrat from the Minneapolis area. He's a good man. And he basically is saying out loud what others choose not to say, which is that they think Biden is too old. His time has passed. They should pass the torch on to the next generation of Democratic leadership. That's what he said. And you know what? Everybody agrees with him. They just won't say it out loud.
Well, Nomiki, why isn't this a 5-alarm fire for Democrats, right? All of these polls. I mean, it's not just one. It's multiple different polls. And yet the Democrats keep saying, oh, it's a year out. Okay, it's true. But isn't there some level of, oh, my God, what are we going to do?
I think the biggest fear here is Donald Trump, who very likely might be in prison. So,
but he won't be. Here's see, that's the reality. That's what Democrats say a lot of the time. But it's a practical legal matter, right? And the only case that might go to trial before the election is the federal one in Washington D.C. If that is going to happen, I will guarantee you the judge, if it happens, if he's convicted, the idea that he's going to be sentenced and forced to go to prison before the election is so remote that the notion that that's going to somehow solve Democrats' problems, I think, is a mistake.
Here, I don't think it's a good strategy to run on this. I'm just saying the drip, 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 drip of Donald Trump is going to start to pulsate. It's going to pick up the pace as we get closer to the election. You're going to start having a conversation about whether or not what it means to be a democracy. Dean Phillips sounds great. If he doesn't pick up traction, there's no conversation. It's about having the strongest Democrat, which in this moment is still Joe Biden.
But there's another piece, and you're talking about lawsuits, right? The more important lawsuit everyone's talking about is the one that's happening in Colorado right now, which is, will he be on the ballot on individual states?
He will be on the ballot. I promise you he's going to be on the ballot. The United States Supreme Court is never going to allow him not to be on the ballot.
Look, I hope that I'm an independent candidate. I want ballot access to be easier. But that's more important. That's the only way he gets off the ballot if that happens. The other things aren't going to stop Donald Trump. That's the only thing that might.
None of these are going to stop him.
Oh,
I'm just saying that's the only thing that could.
But if this is the Democrat strategy, well, gosh, we're hoping that Donald Trump won't be on the ballot, either be in prison. It's not going to work.
That's not it.
And so if that's the case, why don't Democrats say, you know what? Biden isn't working.
Because
His point is right, though.
No. I don't think that's the point. I think, yes, get it out of your system. People think he's too old. So is Donald Trump. So is Hillary Clinton. So is Bernie Sanders. I mean, we have a problem.
All of them seem younger than Biden.
But they're
all of them.
Fair enough, except the media does hyper-focus on this. I mean, we couldn't keep up with Biden if we had to, running around the country, running around the world. Come on.
I could keep up with that.
I literally got it on an overseas flight last night. I'm dying right now.
But my point I want to bring up here, though, is Dean is the first guy to jump out. He's the bravest one of the bunch. You're exactly right. He's going to stand out. If the initial assaults, if he's able to withstand them, others will pop in.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.